Can you hear me now? Oh, yeah. What's happening, folks? Oh, yeah, the mic was turned off because I'm a moron. That's what I do. All right. So, welcome to the show, number 102. It's been a little bit. So, I did want to do a little show, like a live update, if you will, on kind of what's going on in my crazy life. And right now my mouse isn't working, so if the sound is too high, you just have to deal with it. I can't make people moderators. I can't do nothing, and it's all good. We'll figure it out later. We'll have it better next week. So it's good to see everybody. Welcome to another Friday edition of Air Marshal Live. And yeah, man, I've been, it's not like I haven't been around, right? I just haven't been doing the live shows. I haven't been producing a lot of content because, number one, I'm still working on this crazy balsa airplane, and my entire workspace here is full of balsa stuff. Thank you, Paul. Check 6, how you doing? George Watts. It is good to see everybody. Thanks, Shadow. So, still working on the plane. The wings are out in the garage. I'd go grab them, but I meant to bring them in. I just forgot. So, no wings to show you this week. But yeah, thanks, Hunter. Yeah, this. So to give you guys an update, right? Kind of personal life stuff. For those of you guys that are able to participate, I'm alive and well. I'm active, in a lot of the live shows. You just haven't seen me doing the live show here, right? So, I can jump into the live shows every now and then where I'm just chatting along, or the Zoom chats that we do in the evenings. I can jump in there, but typically I jump in a little later. This week has really been like the first week since January 20th. So January 20th is a day that I will remember for a while. So I've got a lot of work-related stuff going on where we just shifted. So, those of you that don't know, my real job, outside of being a small-time, YouTube RC enthusiast, is I am a network engineer, IT director type person. And the company that I've been working with, we have been going through a complete architecture shift where, we were running all of our back-end systems on a single, well, it wasn't a single server, it was redundant, but it was, effectively running on a single CPU with a failover. And I've been working on shifting them over to a clustered, multi-tiered architecture, and that has been a monumental pain in the butt. A monumental pain in the butt, right? So that's what I've been up to, is trying to get that new architecture up and running, and have been running into headache after headache while trying to keep that system alive, So for those of you that work in IT, that there are development environments and test environments like DevOps, QA, production. So this was the shift of our production environment. And I've been working my tail off, probably 60 to 70 hours a week, just to keep the thing alive and up and running with server restarts seemingly 2-3 times a day. trying to figure out like what are these little gremlins that are in this new system. And it's just taken a while, man. But this week, we made a lot of important strides with that. And the system has been pretty good. It's still doing a couple of weird things here and there, but it's coming along, right? So this week is the first week that I've felt comfortable in a while. Jumping in here, for an hour and kind of taking myself out of the ability to work on that system in a long time, right? And it feels good, right? So, I've been so consumed with work here lately that, it kind of puts your mind in a weird place where you get like completely consumed with all the other bullcrap going around, that you forget what having fun is all about. And hopefully I'm in a place where I can return to having fun again because I like it. Mary Boozer, what is happening? It is good to see you tonight. So that's what's been going on, guys. I've been just breaking my butt trying to get this new system up and running. At work, I've had, some stuff happen there some stuff going on that I really liked, some stuff going on that I really didn't like, and there was, moments where I was like, I'm done with this place and I'm moving on, and yeah, I've decided like, maybe I'll stick around for a little bit. It's been a rough, 2-3 months, but everything is looking good now. I'm in a more comfortable place, and I want to start, playing with my RC stuff again. Yeah, Paul, the cat's fine. He was just over here rubbing on my leg, weirdo. He can't get on the table right now because the table is just full of crap. If he tried to get up here, he'd knock himself over. He'd have a nose with epoxy all over himself. Thanks, Scotty. And to all the other folks, Kenny, it's good to see you, man. It's good to see you. So I guess all I can say is, hopefully I'm back. I'd like to be able to make more consistent appearances, and my workday on Friday actually ends at 5, where I can, play around a little bit. So by the time 9 o'clock comes around, I'd have been able to get my old man nap in between work and, and starting up the show. But life has been hectic. So we are going to move on. Enrique, we went from a redundant server. We just had a single server with a failover to a 13 server system. So it's a little different, and it is an active failover cluster. So there are 13 more in 2 different regions of AWS. So we're actually running 26 servers in an active redundant setup in AWS, which is way better than what we had before, but it is challenging. Like the last, say, 3 weeks has all been kind of figuring out like what are the intricacies going to be in this new environment, writing a boatload of automation scripts, finding out how it's going to behave when the load balancing doesn't quite balance the load the way I would like it to. I mean, it's been a bit of I don't want to call it a disaster because it has widely been successful. Where like 90% of it has been great. Since day one, 90% of it has been great. But, for those of you guys that work in IT, you understand that you can get, something to 90%, and you reach this point of diminishing returns where, same with like building a car. You can get a car going 150 miles an hour. That's not hard, right? Trying to get that car to go 160 might cost you an extra 10 grand on top of all the work that you've done. Trying to get that car to go 170 is going to cost you another 50 grand. Trying to get that car up to 180 is going to cost you like another $100,000. So you get to this point of diminishing returns where, you're putting in a ton of work to get like that last 1%. Are we at 100% yet? Not really, not yet. But we're still working on it, man. I actually need to add a couple more servers because, my web servers are not performing the way that I'd like them to. So I need to add a couple more servers to the cluster and see if that balances everything out just a little better. Like right now, my web servers sit at max load, they sit about 85 to 90% CPU utilization, and I'd like to get them around 70. So I need to add a couple more servers, see if we can drop that load down. But like I said, we're at that point of diminishing returns where we're putting in maximum effort to get minimum results, which really sucks. Yeah, George, you are absolutely correct. And, I've got a lot of experience working with AWS, the whole cloud architecture thing. I really took a hold of that like as soon as I could get on it, right? Like being able to jump on that train is really kind of the future of this business, being able to have like on-demand services, on-demand compute power, being able to just instantly ramp stuff up in AWS, and like the Elastic architecture is phenomenal. So it's not like I have like a ton of servers running all the time, but they can just turn on as the load increases, So like in AWS, like the load balancers work in conjunction with the Elastic architecture, and I've got like server templates that can be automatically deployed, as the load balancers start to see that load increase, but I had it capped, and that's where I need to, look at that. And then you gotta like study and evaluate and do all this other stuff to see like, okay, on average over the course of a week or an hour, sometimes as granular as an hour, what do my expenses look like at this time of day versus, 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning versus, 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We're doing just a ton of stuff to make sure that everything is just right. So it's been rough, man. Not rough, it's one of those things where it's extremely rewarding, but yeah, I don't know. It's like building a house, only instead of building a house, you're building like, it's so much more difficult than putting nails in a piece of wood. So I'll just say that like the last, 6 months or so, 9 months really, the architectural planning, getting everything kind of planned out, getting everything prepped and ready, and getting the licensing secured, and doing all the stuff that we had to do in the back end just to get to the point where we could start deploying and testing, and just everything getting to this point has just drained me for, it's drained the heck out of me, man. So I am ready to start getting back into the RC stuff again. I've still got stuff here that I've been meaning to do forever. Like I've still got this Draco gear that I'm going to be doing Brendan McCormick's mod on. And it's funny now because now the Draco's like old news, but I don't care. And it's one of those things where it's like one of those planes that, you know, there's a lot of folks that, I don't know. I mean, like the Draco was obviously received very well, but for the number that have been sold, which I am sure is just thousands, if not tens of thousands of models, there are freaking a ton of people out there that have Dracos that absolutely love them. And then you have all the people on the internet, you know, who have nothing but bad things to say about it. I personally still think that it is an awesome airplane. It flies exactly the way that I expected it to fly. I didn't expect it to be like this crazy, you know, aerobatic superstar of an airplane. You know, I mean, it's a bush plane. It's a big bush plane, and it flies fantastic for what it is. You know, there's some areas that could use some improvement. There's some areas that, you know, where like the dash, for example, that bubbles up, you know, it gators real bad in the hot sun. It is what it is. So, you know, I still love that plane. I'm going to do some upgrades to it, and I'm still going to enjoy it. You know, but I haven't been able to get out and fly in a long time, man. I was able to get out to Alabama a few weeks back to hang out with Scott Settle, with Pilot Ryan, Bobby Kay, a lot of guys at the Birmingham RC Club who are always just super hospitable. Every time I've gone over there, it's fantastic, right? So. Yeah, George, AWS absolutely generates a ton of money for Amazon. Like they could just dump the whole online store business and just survive off of AWS for the rest of their days, right? Like they are making a killing. I did say bush. Yes. So the Draco, fantastic bush plane. I still love it. I still think it's awesome. You know, it's been around long enough now that the areas that I had concerns about, you know, I was able to come up with fixes for them. Like the tail wheel is kind of off, you know, but I figured out like, I mean, these are just RC modeling techniques that have been around forever. You know, just straightening out one edge of the springs where they have a Z-bend in there, straightening that out, and running it into like the quick fasteners, or you know, whatever they call those things. You know, it's like a little collar where you can do like a quick adjust to your servo arm. Anyway, I installed those on either side of the servo horn, or on either side of the control horn that goes to the tail wheel. Was able to get the tail wheel straight, so now the thing taxis exactly the way I'd expect it to. I'm going to be doing the Brendan McCormick mod to the landing gear, because you know, just the areas where the axles or the pivot point, you know, where the trailing arm connects to the carbon fiber, it's just not, it's not the strongest area, so it can be a little brittle, especially if you have any kind of lateral motion as you're coming in. So if you don't, you know, land it nice and straight, if you come in a little sideways and you put a little lateral force, you can crack that carbon fiber right there. So I really like the Brendan McCormick mod. I think it's going to work out well. From Just Plain Crazy. So if you guys want one, I think he's still making them. He may be, he may not be, I don't know. But it's a neat part there. So, but yeah, I mean, I haven't gotten a lot of new airplanes. In fact, I don't think I've gotten any new planes at all. I think the last new plane I got was the E-Flight F-16. 80 millimeter. I've gotten a couple of new cars, but I know you guys, you know, there's very little interest in surface, especially on on a channel that is far more interested in RC aviation, and that's cool. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight is, I know that E-Flight's been doing a lot of redos lately, and a lot of them have been kind of like, So, you know, one of the new releases that I really enjoyed, and this was actually last year, was the E-Flight Turbo Timber Evolution. I thought that that was a fantastic, very well done airplane. You know, it's got a lot of design elements that are still from the old, you know, Timber and Turbo Timber series, but the top loading hatch is awesome. I thought that was brilliant. You know, it was like the one thing that everybody hated about the Timber. They fixed it, right? Great, good on them. So what I was pretty happy to see today, a lot of these redos that they've been putting out have been basically the same model that they had before, like the T-28. I love that they redid the T-28 with the flaps, with the retracts. I love that model, but the yellow mouth and the yellow eyes on it are like, what? So that's kind of, you know, it was like, come on, man. The Carbon Cub S2, I was never a super big, I mean, I've never owned one. I've flown a few of them when I've been working with students. They fly awesome, but it's just not a plane that I was very interested in. But I'll tell you today, the SR-22, I like it. I like it. I always liked the SR-22 in the 1.5 meter. I just didn't care at all for that blue color, right? The SR-22, I mean, it's always been a fairly basic airplane. You know, it's a 5-channel airplane, so you've got your ailerons, flaps, you know, obviously rudder, elevator, throttle. It doesn't have retracts. It's not supposed to. It's a simple tricycle landing gear plane. 3S and 4S capable. I mean, it's a simple general aviation airplane. And, you know, the blue color that was there before, I never really cared for it. But the red, I really like. See you, Shadow Man. It's good to see you. Have a good night. The RV7 I did like, but that wasn't like a re-release, right? That was a new model. So I think the RV7 flies fantastic. Great lights. I mean, the thing is amazing. It's a great little plane, especially for the money. And the SR-22, I think, is also a great little plane. It was always a great flyer, even in the blue color, but I just never cared for the blue. So the, yeah, right, Nate? But I think the red color scheme that they have on the new one looks fantastic, and I'd really like to try it out. Let's see, other new stuff. So now that we've got some folks that are getting the J65 in their hands and people that are getting the PJ50, you know, I mean, that debate's going to live on forever, but I think we're going to start seeing a lot more comparison videos. You know, we've already got like one out there that I think the you know, we're just going to call them the Utah boys. I think those guys have already pulled out a, I think those guys have already put out a comparison video that shows the J65 and the PJ50 kind of right up with each other. And, you know, I'm interested to see them. You know, there's a lot of good qualities to both airplanes, and I'm really interested to see how they compare and really what the life cycle of the planes looks like 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. I really like what I'm seeing from both of them. I always, you know, even when the AL-37 came out, like I like the idea of like a commercial style jetliner, but I never really wanted like a Boeing, you know. It was like, man, I wish they'd have done like a Learjet or something. So when the 2 Gulfstreams got released, like boom, boom, it was pretty exciting times. And you know, I'm going to reserve judgment until I can see, you know, some more videos of which ones are easier to work with, right? Which ones have better servos, how they last in the long haul, kind of look at the forums, same kind of due diligence that we should do when we're making a big purchase, especially in this game, right? Because reliability is number one. And parts availability, you know, is going to go a long way. So I got to see where the chips fall, as they say, because I do like both of them, and I'd like to get one of them. So we'll see what happens there. You know, and I'm not going to say both of them are certainly great planes. I have seen both in person. They're both built very well. You know, the X-Fly model. I mean, for folks that know the background behind X-Fly, and I'm sure that everybody that watches this channel, or at least if you're here right now, I mean, you guys are like the folks that know. So, you know, the X-Fly stuff, I mean, it's basically FMS Plus. Let's just call it FMS Plus, right? These are fantastic jets, fantastic airplanes that X-Fly is putting out. You know, but can they keep up with demand? Can they support, you know, the parts? They're a young company, you know, so it'll be interesting to see how things pan out with X-Fly. The planes are awesome. The planes are fantastic. Lyndon, how you doing, man? It's good to see you. And I will check that. Thank you. Roach Coach, have a good night, buddy. So what else is coming down the pike? I finally got the Spectrum windsock. And I'll tell you what, if you need a windsock for your field, it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. Let me grab it. It's right here. Yep, so here's the fancy Spectrum windsock. The Twin Nova does look good, but I've heard news about the Twin Nova that I can't share, but I hope that you guys are able to get your hands on some of them. So it's not like super small. This thing is probably 3 feet long. You know, this is certainly not like a 15-mile-an-hour windsock like you would find on a real airport, but it's still pretty nice. Dewan Smith, how you doing? It's got like a little metal rod. You just need to get like a compression fitting or something like that. Hopefully on like a swivel, because the lines that are attached to the hoop on the back, so it does have a rigid hoop on the back to keep that open. But the lines are, fixed against that rod, and you want that rod to be able to swivel around as the thing changes directions. But It looks great if you are, a Spectrum user, or your field has a bunch of Spectrum users. This thing is a great addition. It's like 25 bucks. I think it's, I couldn't tell you, is it a limited run or not, but I think it looks great. I'm going to be flying one somewhere. I'm probably just going to bring it with me, like when I go to events and things like that, and just have it where, I can just stick it in front of my little place. Maybe I'll put Doctor on the front, or the Spectrum Whisperer. Yeah, I'm looking forward to, kind of things shaking out around here a little bit. Yeah, I was going to try to go flying tomorrow, but the wind looks terrible. Yeah, Lyndon, if that's in the email, I'll be able to find it there. Otherwise, I'd have to go back. Like my mouse and everything isn't working right now, so I can't like do screenshots or anything from where I'm sitting. So I'll have to like backtrack in the chat to find that. Philip, what I would tell you is make sure that whatever it says in the book is done. You're going to want everything, like your setup for that plane needs to be very well done. Don't skimp out on anything. Don't take for granted that your servos are already in the right positions. Get out your measuring sticks, get out your rulers, get out your calipers, get out whatever it is that you use to make sure that everything is correct, right? So your full flying stabs, your ailerons. The plane is very sensitive to very small movements or very small variations. So if your full flying stabs are a little bit off, you may see the airplane try to roll one way or another. If the ailerons are just a tiny bit off, you're going to see the airplane want to try to roll one way or the other. I mean, you can tell if it's a stab problem because trimming the ailerons won't stop that roll from trying to happen. It's still going to try to do it. You just have to put in a lot more aileron to kind of to balance it out, but now you're inducing some drag on the plane. So yeah, just make sure that everything is very well set up. All the pre-flight checks, all that stuff. As far as flying characteristics, I mean, the plane is surprisingly fast for an 80 millimeter because for its size, it's only like 2 inches shorter than the free wing 90 millimeter F-16. And I think the wingspan is the same. So, that tells you that one of the two planes is not scale, right? Which is ridiculous, right? The E-Flight is fantastic. You're going to love it. Well, once you get it up and get it trimmed out, that thing flies great. It flies like a sport jet. To get it slowed down, you don't have flaps, so you're going to want to, practice your approaches. It will slow down great. It does not do high alpha like the 70 millimeter F-16. Like the 70 millimeter, I mean, you can come in at like 70 degrees, 75 degrees high alpha and be able to control it. The 80 millimeter doesn't have enough oomph for its weight to be able to pull that off, but you can still do a good high alpha, probably about a 30 degree, 30 to 40 degrees of high alpha, and still be able to slow it down plenty. Otherwise, just land it, you slow it down as much as you can, put it down on the mains. Make sure that your wings are nice and level because an F-16 is very tippy. Yeah. I mean, and Nate's right. I mean, it'll do high alpha, but I mean, don't expect it to like hover. Like the 70 just has this stupid power to weight ratio. So the 70 is like a high alpha machine. The 80, it'll high alpha, just not like the 70 will. The 70 is crazy. So yeah, when you're bringing it in, make sure your wings are nice and level. And, just land it on the mains, get the nose down, and back off on the throttle. Fly it in. Don't be afraid of it. Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's not a lot of, F-16s, F-5s, F-18s. These planes don't have a lot of... they don't have very good wing loading. Let's just say that. The surface area of the wings is not very much. So you got to keep the power on, man. They do not glide very well at all. Lyndon, this is a Radiomaster TX16S. So it is an open TX. Actually, it's running Edge TX now. I've ditched Open TX and have started using Edge TX. The Edge TX builds are just a little more... they seem to be keeping up with the times a little better than Open TX is. And Edge TX has unlocks the touchscreen features of the TX16S transmitter. So now I can use all the touchscreen features, which is nice. Barry Campbell, what is happening? So let me see about what time it is. 9:40. So I got sent a picture, and I think it was Mike SSI who sent this to me, who's probably in here. They used a paint roller to mount their Spectrum windsock. So he sent me a picture of a Spectrum windsock at his field, and they mounted this rod to like the handle of a paint roller and stuffed the paint roller inside of like a piece of pipe. So the paint roller is what it uses as the swivel for the windsock to be able to pivot around on. It's a pretty good idea right there. New radio on the street. I'm a little iffy on it. I guess if people really love super well-made aluminum cage gimbals that are machined to the tightest, like NASA specifications, if you need gimbals that are like the best gimbals in an RC radio, Spectrum has released an NX10 SE, the same way they did an IX20 SE, right? IX20 SE is quite a bit more expensive than the IX20. Ryan, what's up, man? NX10 SE, I think they're wanting like $800 for that thing, and it's like, it seems like a lot to ask for a 10-channel radio. I'm okay with obviously, I mean, I paid for my NX10. Nobody gave it to me. I love the NX10. I think it's fantastic. And I think that it's worth the price that you're paying for it. I think the Hall effect gimbals are going to last forever. And I don't know that I've ever had a gimbal. I've had gimbal springs break, and it's easy enough to just go in there and replace the gimbal spring, but I've never had a gimbal break. And you know what? Maybe if I put one in my hand, I'd be like, wow, this does feel like an $800 radio. Like, these gimbals are amazing. Maybe they are. I just don't know. My the jury's out, right? I'd have to try one to be able to give like an educated opinion on it, but my initial thought is like that seems like a lot of money for a 10-channel radio. Well, Check 6, that case, for those of you guys that have like the TX16S, that like foam, I mean, it's nice. Yeah, I mean, it's exposed on the outside, which is a little weird. But it's obviously, formed perfectly for the radio. So when you put it in there, I mean, it doesn't move around at all. It is made for the radio. And it's not bad at all. I mean, I think that people will be pleasantly surprised at how durable those cases are. Here's where I see a market for an NX10 SE. Right? How many people bought a DX9 when they first came out and still have that DX9 today? And I'd say that the answer is a lot of folks. And it's, I would tell you in a heartbeat, if I had like a ride or die radio, like it was the one that I could have, if I couldn't have any other transmitter, the one radio that I would pick is probably a DX9 Black. And not because, I have a preference of, the DX9 Black was better than the DX9. It just looks better to me. But the DX9 Black was fantastic. Great. The DX9 was an awesome, awesome radio. Still is an awesome radio. And there are a lot of people that bought a DX9 and they will never need another radio ever. They're perfectly, happy with the features, with the functionality. The DX9 is probably one of the, I won't say the best ever made, but it's certainly one of the most solid transmitters and very popular transmitters for recreational RC pilots. So I'm not talking about folks that have huge turbines and need 18 to 20 channels. Obviously they have like their flagship radios for that. But for your recreational RC pilot, 9 channels is probably enough to keep you going forever, right? So the DX9 always to me seemed like the perfect go-to radio for almost anyone. Like 90% of the RC world would be perfectly content with a DX9 and they never need another radio. And for as long as it, has lasted, I mean, those things have been out for a long time and they're still kicking. So thinking about it like that, if I had the option back then to get a DX9 with what are probably some of the best design gimbals that have, I mean, I always, will take a step back and say, are they the best gimbals ever? Come on, that's very subjective, right? I don't have any level of objectivity to say they're the best gimbals ever, but I've used IX20s, I've used IX20 SEs. There is a difference. They are super smooth. And I think if you think of your radio as an investment, and you think of the popularity and the longevity of the DX9 and how forever, I mean, and still to this day, but here's the problem, you can't get a DX9 anymore. So what is the right now forever radio? A good argument could be made that the NX10 is the new radio for that solid transmitter that most recreational pilots will never need anything more than what an NX10 is going to give them. The screen on the NX10, it's not like an iPhone screen. It's not like a full color gamut. They last a lot longer, right? That screen is going to last a long time. They're going to be supporting the software on the NX series radios for a long time. I think that the NX10 is very much marketed as the ultimate radio for the recreational hobbyist that doesn't want to go into the Android side of things. And if you think about it in that perspective, I think the idea of an NX10 SE becomes more palatable, right? We were all very willing to part ways with $500 to get a DX9 or $450, $460, whatever the price was on them. But, the one Spectrum radio that I've seen the gimbals break on was a DX9. Not because they're crappy gimbals, but because the thing got used so much. So if you're a guy that flies all the time and you're constantly working those gimbals, having Hall effect, aluminum cage, machine gimbals with smooth as silk ball bearings, probably some of the best gimbals that you can find in an RC radio. I mean, they're certainly up there with the best out there. Is $800 too much to ask? And I just don't know. I don't know. That's always going to be up to the end user, right? Look how many people have jumped on the iX20 SE. I mean, how much is the iX20 selling these days since the iX20 SE came out? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but when I see people buying iX20s these days, they're going ahead and splurging and paying the extra money to get the SE. So it's hard to say, man. It's hard to say what something is worth because everybody's perceived value of a product is different. Does that make sense? My perceived value, how much value do I put in those gimbals? And that's where I start taking like a long-term look at this thing, How long am I going to have this radio? Am I going to have the radio for long enough that I feel like it's justified to spend a couple $100 extra to get some of the finest gimbals in RC, machined, tight tolerance, ball bearings, super smooth, Hall effect, completely adjustable gimbals that are going to last forever. And I'm telling you now, you go play with an IX20. If you tell me that you can't tell the difference between the gimbals on an IX20 and the gimbals on an NX10, that's preposterous. There is absolutely a difference, man. Oh, Lyndon, absolutely. And you know, here's what I'll say, right? It's hard to say what is the best, right? There's a really good argument for a company like Futaba. You know, Futaba's the best. The power box radios are the best. The Jetty radios are the best. You know, is Spectrum the best? They're definitely up there. You know, are they the best? That's very subjective. But they are by far the most widely used. If that makes sense, right? So you will find in the wild more Spectrum radios than any other brand out there, hands down, period, no questions asked. Spectrum will be the most popular transmitter in the world today, without question. Without question. Yeah, Tim, you're exactly right. I mean, everybody's interpretation of the best is laced with bias. Let's say that. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's all opinion. Even when we look at things that we can try to be objective on, like this radio has 9 channels and this radio has 10. Well, 10 is better than 9, so this radio is better than this one. But is it? This radio has, this generation of channel processor, and this one has this generation of channel processor, and Gen 3 is clearly better than Gen 2, so this radio is better than this one. But is it really? How do we measure that as consumers? And that's one area where there's not a lot of folks. It's not like cars, right? Where there's literally thousands of well-qualified mechanics who can give you objective, objective interest points on a vehicle and tell you, this type of transmission is objectively better than this type of transmission, or this engine is objectively better than this engine, and here's why. When we start getting into the nuts and bolts of what makes a transmitter good, you get a lot of internet experts, who all like to say, this is better than this. This multi-protocol module built into my TX16S is better than a Spectrum because it can talk to 50 different kinds of radios. But is that true? At what cost? Show me some objective measure to prove that that module is better than the Gen 3 channel processor transmitter model that's in my NX10. And I'd say that you can't. There's nobody, I won't say there's nobody, but there are very few people that put their mouths out there on the internet that can objectively state one way or the other that one is better than the other and give me objective KPIs to suggest that I should buy this one over this one. It very much gets turned into a personal preference type of thing. You know, does one feel better than the other? I mean, that's up to you. How does it feel in your hands? Scotty, I don't know how much longer you're going to need to wait. I think it's on the horizon. I think we're going to see something soon. I think we're going to see something soon in the way of a something to replace the IX-12. The IX-12 was the last radio that they're selling that still had a Gen 2 channel processor, so it had to go. They don't make the parts anymore to support it. So it is what it is, right? Spencer Keith, what is up? All right. So, yeah, man, I get long-winded on this stuff because I'm just trying to speak the truth. Mike SSI, yes. I hate putting it out there, right? Because I haven't seen it, but I know for a fact that the answer is yes. I can't tell you how I know, but it is publicly available information. So I'm not giving up anything, but the answer is yes. It will become a 14. And months ago, I guessed that and got fussed at by people. How do you know that? Like, what are you talking about? It's called an educated guess. But did somebody tell you that? Like, no, nobody told me that. I guessed. You know, sometimes, you know, intuitive people can put 2 and 2 together and be like, well, now they have a 10-channel radio and they have a 20-channel radio. And I don't think that the one in the middle, you know, that not quite flagship, but still you want to have something else in that lineup, right? You've got, like before they had the DX20, and then they came up with the IX-12, and you had the 9, you know, so there was a 3-channel separation between, you know, like if all I'm getting is 2 more channels, I'll take the 10. But if I get 4 more channels and I get a faster Android interface and I get a bigger screen that I can utilize on the edges of the screen instead of like hitting up against the borders, do they need to make it like an IX-20? No. But do they need to make it perform like an IX-20? Yes. Do I need, you know, haptic feedback on my switches? No, man. Do I need like tactile, you know, touch sensitivity on the switches where I can just touch it and it'll say something? No, I'm fine with the voice commands, you know, still being on the flip. You know, when I flip the switch, then it says something. I don't need to just be able to touch it. You know, do I need all this extra fancy crap? And the answer is no, right? So like the IX-20 can still be that flagship, but if you can give me the performance, give me the engine that's running in the IX-20 without all the extra channels, without all the bells and whistles, without being able to just capacitive touch switches, take all that away and give me the screen, give me the engine, give me the Android, you know, interface, and I'll be super happy. And I think that I personally would expect to see that thing at a price point, especially based on today's announcement of the NX10 SE. I'd expect to see a new version of an iX12 come in around a price point of between $900 and $1,000. So take that to the bank. I don't know. Again, pure speculation, but that's where I think that we should expect to see the price of that thing, somewhere around $1,000. Yeah, so good question. Someone had asked, where would I like the screen to be if I could put the screen anywhere on a transmitter? I like them on the top better. It's easier to glance down at when you're flying, to just glance down at it. Oftentimes, especially if I'm flying, my hands are obscuring the screen, or the way that where the lanyard attaches, because I use a lanyard when I'm flying. So where the lanyard attaches obscures the screen. When I look down at it, I can't see what's going on. If I could have the screen at the top, I'd like it a lot better. But that's just me, right? That's, again, very subjective stuff. How many people are looking at the screen when you're flying anyway? I mean, let's be honest. You should probably be watching the airplane. Especially for those that are flying jets around, I mean, those things, they eat up a lot of ground pretty quick. All right. So, enough of my philosophies on what I think makes a good RC transmitter. At the end of the day, everybody gets to choose what they like, which is what makes competition in this industry so crucial, right? Imagine if Spectrum was the only choice that you had. What if you thought they all sucked, right? So that's why I have a TX16. I wanted to try it out. I wanted to be able to make an educated decision in my own head. I still want to try out a Futaba. I'd like to try a Powerbox Core. I'd like to try a Jetty, so I can make up my own mind based on real world experience and my, having used Spectrum and, Radio Master, any open TX style radio, having used a Jetty, having used a Powerbox, having used a, whatever the case may be, a Futaba. I want to be able to make an educated choice out of all of those and say, okay, this is the one I like the best. And for me, so far, I keep going back to Spectrum. I keep going back to Spectrum because of all the features that they offer without having to break the bank to get it. And I know that some of you guys will be like, that's crazy. You do have to break the bank. But in my opinion, if you want telemetry, if you want, a gyro, if you want all that stuff, like what Spectrum offers is fantastic, where you can get compact receivers, full telemetry, altimeters built in, coupled with an Avian ESC, which actually perform really well, coupled with, the smart batteries, which some people like them, some people hate them. I haven't had any problems with them. I love the telemetry I get out of them. I don't have to worry about timers anymore on my radios. I like having that peace of mind. So the ecosystem, whether I think that Spectrum makes the best radio or not, do I think that a Mac is better than a PC? It really depends on the PC, right? There's some PCs out there that blow Macs away, but the Apple ecosystem is phenomenal. They've done such a good job at integrating all of their products where it's just smooth to to get them all to work with each other. And that's what I really like that Spectrum's doing, is they're building an ecosystem around, their technologies, and it all makes sense and it all works really well together. The batteries, the motors, the ESCs, the transmitters, the receivers, all the little modules and stuff that they're making. Everything in this new SRXL2, serial device world, all of this is coming together to make this ecosystem of products that's just plug and play, seamless, easy to program. That's what I like. I like the innovation. And that's it. Scotty, man, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And with all that said, we're going to wrap this up, man. We're going to switch it over to the Friday night Zoom. Yeah, Mike, I do. I mean, I enjoy the Spectrum products. I mean, I've obviously made a lot of videos about Spectrum products. I mean, the backbone of this channel rides on videos that I have made about Spectrum products, and I do like them. They've been very good for me. And I really enjoy, like I said, I mean, the innovation that they're putting behind what they do. They seem to be the ones that are pushing the envelope of what all could be included on a little bitty device, right? I don't know. I like it. I like what they're doing, and I like companies that are willing to push that envelope. So anyway, I know there's everybody's got telemetry, but with Spectrum, you don't need all the modules, man. Yeah, I mean, everyone needs an ESC. Everyone needs a receiver. Everyone needs a battery. But if you get a smart ESC, a smart receiver, and a smart battery, you get so much telemetry without the need for any of the modules. And that, to me, is awesome. Anyway, I'm going to start up the Friday night Zoom. All right. So this is what I do at the end of every Friday show around 10 o'clock, right? Because I don't want to keep going, man. I could blab on about this stuff forever. Trust me, I can, right? I can talk about RC forever. But I also want you guys to be able to talk back. And that's why we do these Friday night Zooms every week. And Spencer's going to start freaking yapping and ruining the whole dang thing. All right, so for those of you guys that already have the link to the Zoom sessions, feel free to jump in. The Zoom is up, it's running, it's live. And I'm going to jump in here and put that link in there for all to see. So now everybody has the link to the Zoom. You should see it coming up here. There it is. There's the link to the Friday night Zoom. So for those of you guys that want to continue this discussion, feel free to jump into Zoom. It's the same kind of Zoom that your companies use for, remote meetings and stuff like that. It's the new wave of the online world, man. We are, getting close to post-COVID, but Zoom still works. We're using it all the time. And I encourage everybody to come join us. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't participated in one of these things before, I think you're going to enjoy it. We don't just talk about RC. Trust me, these things can get wild. They are not rated R. They are far beyond that. So if you have sensitive ears and you don't want to hear a lot of cursing or talking about the most outlandish things that you've ever, just imagine going into a room with a bunch of grown men who are still like petulant children, and we all play with large, expensive toys, and we all have opinions, and we are the most disgusting, vile people on the planet. That's how these Zooms get. But we still talk about RC. We still have a good time. And I'd encourage everybody to come check it out. So click the link. I'm sure you guys can hear the stupid dogs in the background. I'll put it in there one more time. Click the link. Come join us. Listen, if you're here and you're new to the show, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And I hope that I am able to do this more consistently, right? Because I love being able to do these shows. I love being able to talk shop to you guys. And I also love to be able to talk to you guys in person and where we can actually have like a two-way chat about this stuff. So if you want to talk to me in person, join the Zoom, come talk to us. In the meantime, like the videos, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next week. Have a good night, guys.